But we can look at the vulnerabilities, I mean these missing vulnerabilities, not missing but missing patterns associated with these vulnerabilities one at a time, like this too. So code quality vulnerabilities, for example, it has things like memory leak, which is vulnerable to something like denial of service attacks. Another one was uninitialized variables, leftover debug code, meaning sometimes software developers, they try to test their code and they write some code to try things out here and there and forget to remove that, right? So all these things, like I said, can be probably avoided by using more reuse and also by using more patterns and so on. I mean, I think there is still that possibility, although this is more programming related. Another one is cryptographic vulnerabilities. Under this one, more detailed items listed were insecure and inappropriate use of a cryptographic algorithm, again trying to use their own cryptographic algorithms, random number generation problems, and so on. So all these usual suspects. And then finally, general logic error vulnerabilities, and you can see a majority of these are really programming errors. But like I said again, the use of frameworks or the use of architectural approaches could be used probably to avoid some of these vulnerabilities, and that's where we have an opportunity to introduce more security patterns, although it's a little more challenging than the usual way of introducing security patterns. So all these low-hanging fruits, I think they've been probably taken because they were easier to develop, but now we have bigger challenges, and I think we can still tackle these challenges. So in conclusion, in this paper we looked at the vulnerabilities and also security patterns. We tried to associate the vulnerabilities with the security patterns, and in the process we were able to identify these missing security patterns. But what we haven't really explored too much is the relationships between vulnerabilities and the patterns, because right now it's almost like one-to-one. That's the way we've done it, but it's possible that some of these security patterns may be associated with multiple vulnerabilities, not just with one vulnerability. So, I mean, what we've done is very initial exploratory type of thing, and I think if we kind of dig deeper, we'll be able to probably find some overlaps and more insights. So more investigation is necessary. What about the relationships that are not mutually exclusive? More than one vulnerability mapped to a security pattern and so on. So, and then another thing is we haven't really touched on the creation of the new patterns. So one thing we could do is go deeper and then also propose some of these new patterns as a continuation of our research. So that concludes, I think, our presentation. And that's actually my student, Priya, and then that's my collaborator, Rick, or mentor, Rick. So any questions?
Thank you very much.
Short question. Clear to me what could be a security pattern, for instance, for one of the vulnerability you mentioned, the last one, I guess, unintentional memory access, because it's something which is usually, how could I say, it concerns several parts of the same code. For instance, I can free a memory box somewhere, and
you forget,
I can use it. I don't see how you can correct this kind of mistake as a single pattern.
Right, using a pattern, right. So I mean, that's, I think, where we have to do this more code reuse. So I think a lot of these programming errors, they arise because they try to do everything on their own. I mean, the developers. So we talk about the same thing in security, because a lot of times they develop their own authentication code. They develop their own, role-based access control module. You can continue to do that, but they're prone to have mistakes and errors and so on. So why not reuse the code, and why not somehow use the code base that is or that has been certified by another like third party or something like that. That's really one of the major ideas we have behind our research. So we're kind of moving towards more that direction at the moment, rather than trying to just depend on your individual software developers. Why not use the third party who's just specializing in security code and all these other things. Of course, in some cases you may have to develop your own code, but at the same time trying to do as much reuse as possible, probably that's really the best approach, rather than trying to start from scratch every time. Yes.
How does this relate to security anti-patterns, like stuff that find bugs finds or that other commercial codes can just find? Because they, for instance, look for people using hard-coded keys, which is an anti-pattern, or for people that use unsafe memory copy operations, which could lead to memory being overwritten.
So some of those things, and I already kind of went over that a little bit, but some of those really like low-level programmer-specific errors, you cannot really take care of them 100%, because it's just a human error. People just have to somehow do that sometimes. But one way of mitigating that is to use more patterns and more frameworks and things like that. So I think some of these things are basically unavoidable, and for that we probably need more software developer education or awareness about secure coding and so on. So that's why I think we have to do both. Encourage more reuse, but at the same time somehow train the software developers more so that they practice secure coding, rather than trying to just develop something without thinking too much. So I think it has to go hand in hand, really. Both. Yes. So there's no like silver bullet in this case. Very good question. Any other questions? Yes.
I don't know if it's the right question. We are not a trend to Scrum, to Agile. Is there a role of patterns there? Could it be important for the Agile developer to use patterns too, because it's not? So it is possible. It is another asset for them?
I think it's relevant, because one of the reasons why using the patterns is to accelerate the process, instead of trying to spend too much time on your own trying to reason about your security requirements or any other types of requirements. So
you have some framework to do it.
More guidance, and I think
do you know any work
publications?
The interaction between Scrum and
no. So I think we can write a paper. That's a great paper. I think something like that would be great. So another thing they talk a lot about is somehow still employing this idea of software architecture in those more streamlined approaches, because when they think about these more streamlined development approaches, they think sometimes architecture is probably too much already, but we still think architecture has to be there. So there is, I know, some research going on, somehow trying to incorporate the architectural ideas into those methodologies. However, I don't think they have gone that far with the use of security patterns and things like that. So, in that sense, there's a lot of opportunities there, definitely. So, definitely. So, another paper idea. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you so much.
Then we also our second.
Another.